So this is going to be a kind of two-section or two-part, not two physical parts, but two sort of section video, because I'm going to do a quick little overview of this radio here, the KLH Model 21 FM radio, and then I'm going to put in a short section about the restoration that I did on this earlier today. So this is an FM only radio made from 1965 to 1970. This particular one was from 1966, as you'll see a little bit later, and it's made by KLH in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's the Model 21. Like I said, it's FM only, so you've got an FM dial here, you've got an volume and on-off switch, and then you've got some bass and treble adjustments. It's a very simple looking radio. You pretty much just got the controls off to your right, got a speaker over there, a nice wood cabinet. That was the focus of my restoration earlier today. I restored and restained and sanded all down this nice cabinet here, so you'll see a little bit of that at the end of this video. Ignore the clutter in the background. I was working on some stuff, but if we switch around to the back, you'll see that the back is sort of just this particle board backing. You've got the electrical outlet. We've got space for a speaker and some tuner outputs, and then an antenna option. So it has a built-in antenna, but you can also put in an external one. So it's made by KLH Research and Development Corp. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it is the Model 21 FM receiving system. So this is a really great sounding radio for its size. It's very small, very compact, but it's very heavy. You can tell it's very well made. And again, this nice wood finish is really great, and I was really happy to be able to finish this up with some stain earlier today. That was pretty much the bulk of my restoration. I sanded down this, stained it up nice and good, and replaced everything. Also put some little feet back on the bottom, which, lovely, have some little hair stuck to them already, but there we go. So yeah, like I said, this thing is really a no-frills kind of radio. There's nothing really special about it except the sound quality. So I'm going to try my best. I'm going to turn it on here. Keep in mind that this thing is going through my camera speakers and then into my computer and into YouTube and all of that, so you're probably not getting the best representation. But in person, this radio sounds fantastic, especially for the fact that this speaker is, you know, about the size of the palm of my hand. And you'll see it when I show you the pictures of it, what this looks like inside. It's not particularly big, but let's take a quick listen. Hopefully this will be music that's playing. Speaker volume knob is also an on-off switch. So there we go. Quick little thing to hopefully not get me copyright struck, but yeah, again, fantastic sound quality for its size. It's very heavy, very substantial, and just a great little radio. Great reception, great sound quality from the KLH Model 21. So we'll just quickly explain before I get into the actual video what I did in this restoration. Basically, I took the back, or I took this whole sort of front section off. You'll see in the next section, but this whole section comes out and just leaves you with a nice wood box, basically. Sanded it down, got it all nice and smooth, and then did some staining on the top to make it this nice, fresh walnut color. Also, this radio had some marks on the dial. Someone had gone in and sort of added, you know, the stations that they wanted to tune into in pencil, or I think in pen, just, you know, marked off on the dial. I don't know why this is not focusing anymore. But sort of gone in and, you know, drew the station numbers on the dial. I went in and just basically added, used some rubbing alcohol to clean it off. You see it's a little uneven. So I might actually go back and sort of clean the rest of this like that. But yeah, basically that's all it took. And this radio had no problems electronically, but just physically it could use a bit of a restoration. So I went ahead and did that, and it looks fantastic. So that is really the demo of this radio sort of electronically. It's incredibly simple. There's just, 4 dials: tuner, volume, bass, and treble. And that's basically about it. The only other thing is the plug that goes into the wall, and that's pretty much it. So very simple, very quality sound, really good sound coming from it, but incredibly simple. So now I'll go ahead and show you some of the restoration, show you a bit of what I did. Alright, so the first thing that we did here was pretty much just take this thing apart. You see that the whole sort of electronic section all comes out in one big piece, and you'll see in just a second all of the dials and everything are still right on the front there, as you can see here. You don't have to take any of the dials out or any of the speakers out. It all just comes out as one sort of big piece, almost like a car chassis. So it all comes out, and it just sort of leaves you with this wood box, which you'll see a little bit later. But everything is kind of in here. It's the date of manufacture, September 14th, 1966, right on the speaker there. And as you can see, everything is just kind of crammed in here. Pretty simple looking, nice and clean on the inside. As you can see there's some fuses, some capacitors and things like that, but really nothing too crazy going on the inside. Now we get over to the box. This was just, I did some sanding down of this. This was about halfway through my sanding. I did a bit more after I did this video to make sure that it was nice and smooth. The main thing I wanted to make sure was that all of the little marks and scratches, and there were some coffee stains and mug rings on the top, I wanted to make sure all of those were sanded out. So I used this nice sort of finishing sander and some nice fine sandpaper. Get it nice and smooth, get all of the old stain off, all of the old marks, all of the old marks and just scratches and stuff like that, all of that off from the outside. So again, this is about halfway through. I did a lot more after this was done. I didn't bother doing the inside. That's my dog being very helpful with this process. But yeah, I didn't really bother sanding the inside or anything like that, but this was again about halfway through the sanding process. Once it was all sanded down, it was time to do the staining. So pretty much you just get it nice and clean, make sure it's all sanded down, it's all smooth, wipe down all the sawdust, and then you just take out your stain and get to work. One of the things I made sure to do was get into all of these sort of corners and things like that, all of the interior parts of the sort of bezel part of the grill. I didn't do the inside at all, but all of the parts that you would see on the outside and all of the stuff that would be exposed, I made sure to do. So all of those corners and all of those inside sections. And this is what it looked like when it was drying. You see, just looking a lot better. Not as many scratches, not as many things like that. So one hit was really enough to do it, and I think it turned out well. This section is just trying to get, I figured once I had everything apart, since I had it all apart, I would sort of blow out all the dust and things like that. So I just got out the air compressor and got to getting rid of the dust, put it on the hood of my car, put a blanket down, and just blew everything out. It was remarkably clean inside for being, 50 years old at this point, but I just figured I would get to it. So there was a little bit, especially around some of the controls and underneath this little section here that was sort of hidden. There was a little bit of dust there, but really, like I said, nice and clean considering it's about 50 years old at this point. So really nothing really to worry about there. This was just something else that I was using and figured it was getting a little dusty, so I decided to blow it out at the same time. This is a little GE telephone clock radio thing that I figured I would do at the same time. Maybe I'll make a video on it at some point. Finally,
Now this was something that I probably could have done while it was all together, but I figured while it was apart I would get to work. Someone had written little station names and stuff like that and marked them on the dial in pen, and I've found that the best way to get rid of marks like this from pretty much anything is just rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip. It doesn't look like it does much, but if you look at the one on the top left, you could see that the ink is starting to run already, and if you stay at it, and if you kind of keep going with it, you see the ink is sort of starting to run in the top left there, and it's fading a little bit at the one that I'm doing over there. But pretty much you just have to stay at it, let the rubbing alcohol get into it, and you see it's coming off on the Q-tip there. This is about halfway through. You see it's starting to fade. The top or the bottom right section is starting to pretty much disappear, and then finally towards the end, here it is. It's a little uneven. I might sort of try to go back and re-even it, but now it was time to put everything back together, which was just sort of slipping everything back in the case and putting the back on, and there you go. So I think it turned out pretty well. It was a pretty simple restoration. Didn't really need much, but just aesthetically fixing it up. I also put little rubber feet on the bottom to stop it scraping around on the table. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you maybe got some ideas for what you might do with some of these wood case radios and stuff like that. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.